Oh, no, not yet.
Mic check. Is that okay?
All right, everybody, welcome to what month is this? The September 17th, 2025 meeting of the Capital Quarter Joint Powers Authority. Could you call the roll, please?
I certainly. Director Byrd, Director Broadway,
Here.
Director Dickinson, Director Chapman. Here. Director Foley,
Present.
Director Frericks,
I am here.
Director Hernandez, Alma Hernandez,
Here.
Director Jade, Director Lee, Director Reed,
Here.
Director Rayburn,
Here.
Director Schaefer, Director Sell,
Here.
Director Wright,
Here.
Director Alternate Brewer,
Here.
Director Moy,
Here.
Chair Haldeshell,
Here.
and Vice Chair Hernandez. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Director Hernandez, would you lead us in the pledge?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and thank you to everybody. We had an start for this meeting, so thanks for everybody for being here. The first item is a closed session item. Could we have our attorney announce the closed session item?
Yes, good morning. The board will now enter into closed session under item 3 of the meeting agenda, and the board will return to open session after the conclusion of its closed session.
Right, we'll adjourn down that hall and to the left for a meeting in closed session.
Test, test.
Test.
And Sean, it's not working. Oh, maybe I'm too loud.
Give us 1 second to get the other screen up. Right. There is no announcement coming out of closed session, so we will move to our open session. And I will give the report of the chair. Welcome to the board meeting of the Capital Quarter Joint Powers Authority Board of Directors. Please note today's meeting is an in-person meeting in the Solano Transportation Authority Boardroom, 423 Main Street, first floor, Suisun City, the home of the that's not here, but it's certainly on my mind. An option for participation via teleconference. Please note that the board members participating via teleconference are all doing so in locations posted 72 hours in advance of the meeting that are open and available for public participation. You can download the agenda and presentation materials at www.capitalcorridor.org/CCJPA-board/. All speakers, including CCJPA board and staff, are requested to announce their name as they begin to speak. For public participants who join in person, if you'd like to provide public comments, please complete a request to address the board in a quote to address the board form available at the entrance of the board meeting and hand it to the secretary, Bob Franklin, before the item is considered by the board. For public participants who join by telephone, your microphones are automatically muted. If you wish to speak on an agenda item, please dial *9 to virtually raise your hand when public comment is announced. When it is your turn to speak, you may need to dial *6 to accept the unmute request. For public participants who joined via Zoom, please use the raise hand feature if you wish to speak. To board members and staff who join via Zoom, please mute your microphones whenever you're not speaking to avoid background noise. If you wish to make a general comment on a subject not on the agenda, you will be given an opportunity to speak under item 9. However, if you have a comment on an item which is on the agenda, we'll take those comments after the staff presentation and prior to board discussion. Public comments are limited to 2 minutes per item. Comments which have been received via email by 3 p.m. Tuesday, September 16th have been provided to the board. Just note there are none. No comments have been received at this time. Board members, in order to reduce confusion throughout the meeting when it's time for directors' remarks, I will call for board member comments. I'll speak last, and in the interest of time and to provide an opportunity for equal participation, try to keep your comments concise. This concludes the report of the chair. Thanks very much. Yelena, I think I should have asked for public comment on closed session item. You have a working microphone.
Well, too. That's correct. We mistakenly did not ask for public comment, but my understanding from the district secretary is that there was no public comment on the closed session item.
I wanted to make sure we button that down. I appreciate that very much. Where am I? Consent. I am lost. There we go. We are at the consent calendar. The consent calendar consists of non-controversial items. Does anyone wish to pull anything from the consent calendar, items 1 through 5?
I wish to make an amendment to the minutes of the June 18th, 2025 meeting. Page 8, item number 2, was not clear whether Directors Wright or myself, Rayburn, motioned support for the Tap to Ride project. It was confirmed by staff that I made the motion. I hope Director Wright, if you saw that, I hope you concur, or if you don't, let me know.
And we should take public comment on the consent calendar before we consider it. I do have one request to address the board from Jonathan Esposito. I gotta get, I'm gonna get these upgraded, so please come forward. You filled out a request to speak on item 6-2, which is approval of the 2026 Board of Directors meeting schedule.
No, mine was for the,
I have you also for item 9 later.
California kids. I may have miswrote the,
Okay, wait. All right, we have no. Public comment on it?
Yes,
Okay,
Alita Dupree.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Bruce Howdeselton, members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds. I'm going to talk about a consent item here, which is pertains to Cal ITP and Mobility IO. And in reading this brief report, I am seeing mention of what's called GTFS, which is a general transit feed specification. And GTFS is something that I use a lot, often with what's called the Transit app. And that's just what it's called, the Transit app, which is free, though I have a premium subscription. And GTFS is very helpful in me being able to plan my transportation. It's very common on buses, but it's evolving on rail. I certainly would believe this could improve our GTFS feeding, as sometimes I have seen phantom images of trains being tracked that aren't there. So we'll certainly want to work with our GTFS provider, which is Mobility IO, to make sure that we don't have phantom trains that appear that aren't there, because that can affect spur of the moment decisions in coming to the station to ride Capital Corridor. So this is a new part of Cal ITP that I haven't noticed before, because Cal ITP is mostly involved with fare payment. But GTFS will definitely help us to plan and use this system. Thank you.
thank you very much for the comment. I think we got a clarification on Jonathan Esposito. I'll get that. Yeah, I just have to write it on here so I can read it. You wanted to make public comment? Jonathan, the microphone it's counterintuitive, because if you press it, it's red.
my apologies.
There you go.
Well, I apologize for not realizing that this was the time I was supposed to speak. I say good morning to you all. Again, my name is Jonathan Esposito. I'm the Safety and Legislative Representative for Local 1732. We represent Amtrak train and engine service employees. In the consent form for the California PIDS, you're going to renew it with another company, I believe. And I saw they was going to provide upgrades and support to the PIDS system at the stations. I'm just wondering, was there any path in that as well to upgrade the station information displays or repair them in your California One cars, the legacy cars, so that information is also provided to onboard passengers?
Mr. Paget, you have a response to that? There you go. Yeah, thanks.
Sanchez, Deputy Managing Director. We are currently delivering the high-level legacy fleet. And one of the components that we are also looking at is the onboard information display systems. So right now, that is the plan, is we're considering that as part of one of the major components that needs to be overhauled. So as we have more information and more details, we can come back and report on that.
Thank you very much. Are there any public comments online? We've had one, but any others?
There's no additional requests.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move approval.
We have a motion by Director Rayburn,
Second.
second by Director Director Chapman. Geez, got that on my mind. Please call it roll.
Director Broadway,
Yes.
Director Dickinson, Director Chapman,
Aye.
Director Foley,
Aye.
Director Frericks,
Aye.
Director Alba Hernandez. Aye. Director Jane. Director Lee.
Yes.
Director Rid.
Yes.
Director Rayburn.
Yay.
Director Sell.
Yes.
Director Wright.
Yes.
Director Brewer. Director Boy. Chairperson Haldeshelt.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. We'll next move to our agenda item 7, action and discussion items. And the first one is the Capital Quarter Joint Powers Authority fiscal year 2025-26 operating plan update and authorization. And
Good morning, directors. Rob Paget, the Engineering Director. Nice to see everybody today. So this first item we will provide an overview of our operating plan and ask for approval for the current fiscal year. And this will be presented by Leo Sanchez and Kat Relucio. And just a reminder, we submit our annual business plan to the state in April. And in response to that, the state provides us with our funding based on that request. And so we're asking today to approve that. With that, I'll turn it over to Leo and Kat.
Thank you, Rob. Again, good morning. Leo Sanchez, Deputy Managing Director. I will begin by providing you all an update on the mechanical transition. The mechanical transition from Amtrak Mechanical to Transit Services America Incorporated, or TASI, was completed as of August 1st, 2025. We have experienced some issues, expected issues in the transition, specifically with parts issues that prompted Capital Quarter to reduce service temporarily as TASI works to improve mechanical reliability and equipment availability. We have a path forward and we have confidence that we will return in 2 weeks to the same level of service that we were needing. I also want to inform you that we have the General Manager of TASI, John Pozanaska, in the audience here today. Next slide. Here we have our current future projected service levels on the bars. The line represents the actual ridership and projected ridership growth. The good news here is that this summer we experienced double-digit percentage growth year over year. The plans for the next fiscal year are to first restore back to the 28 weekday train service that we ran for most of the summer. And then later this year, restore the remainder of the weekday service back to 30 trains as more equipment is available. Next slide. Here on this slide, it's a lot of information in here, but it's just a detailed look of what the service levels look like and as they pertain to the upcoming fiscal year. Next slide. To help with our limited equipment available for service, we have been exploring other options to fill the gap. As a reminder, the state retains the responsibility in our interagency transfer agreement, or the ITA, to provide equipment needed for the Capital Quarter route. As such, Caltrans is working with Caltrain with input from Capital Quarter staff on the locomotive and rail cars that Caltrain has available for lease. The lease contract is planned to be executed by the end of this month, and as soon as that happens, Capital Quarter staff can begin doing work to install Wi-Fi and retrofit the Tap2Ride contactless readers along with the branding of the equipment shown on this slide. Thank you, and I will now hand it to Catherine.
Thanks, Leo.
Good morning, CCJPA Board of Directors. Catherine Relucio here, and I'm the Manager of Budget and Administration with Capital Corridor. I'm going to walk you through the annual business plan approval and funding authorization for fiscal year 25 to 26. We are excited to be working on the restoration of train service levels back to FY19 pre-pandemic levels starting in the first quarter of FY26. We are expected to continue to work towards a return to 50% or better cost recovery level in FY26 as part of our annual business plan approval. In order to do this, we will continue to seek and implement cost-saving strategies and revenue-increasing strategies through FY26 and future years. And then lastly, we have been asked to develop midterm 3 to 5 year plans to align with service levels and projected costs and revenue. And this will be a collaborative effort across the intercity rail JPAs, Caltrans, and CalSTA. Next slide, please. The details of the full FY26 funding request and authorization are included in your board packet, beginning on page 25. This slide summarizes what we've been authorized by CalSTA to date for FY26. So if you look at the second column, which is the first numbers column, is the amount authorized for FY25, which is our current fiscal year that we're operating under. The second column, the FY25 is last fiscal year. FY26 is, FY26 was commenced on July 1, and the amounts in the second column are the amounts that were requested. The third column is the amount of funding that has been authorized by CalSTA to date. And you will see on the slide that we received the full amount that was requested for all of our budget line items, except for 2, and we highlighted those on the slide before you. For Amtrak operations, we forecast costs using the state's cost optimization strategic initiative tool, or what we call COSI. And it's a forecasting model that was developed with input from the state and the JPAs, LOSAN, SJJPA, and CCJPA. So the requested amount of $27.2 million was based on the most up-to-date COSI projection for Amtrak operations that we had at the time that we submitted the business plan. And that included actual costs through the first quarter of FY25. The $22.9 million amount that we were actually funded by the state was based on an older COSI forecast that included actuals only through the fourth quarter of FY24. We are actively working with the state on this discrepancy in funding, and should we receive additional funding, we'll return to the CCJPA board in a future meeting. In addition, for the IPR supplemental allocations, you will see a variance between what's requested and what was authorized. The main variance is due to the addition of the funding allocation for the Northern California equipment lease readiness effort that Leo just described, and it's $2.4 million. Again, all of these details are included in your board packet agenda on page 25. In summary, for this agenda item, we're requesting the CCJPA board to adopt CCJPA's FY26 budget in the amount of $51.5 million. As well, under a separate resolution, we're also requesting the board's approval of an agreement for a not to exceed value of $1.1 million, and that will be with a competitively procured vendor for exterior vinyl wraps, which are required to prepare for the newly leased equipment to be in service. This concludes our presentation, and Rob, Leo, and I are happy to address any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item?
There's one speaker online, Alita Dupree. Please go ahead.
Thanks again, Chair Bruce Hotter, members. Alita Dupree from the record, she and her with Team Folds. I'm looking forward to this. 30 trains a day on the weekdays. Hopefully someday we can increase the weekends, but this is a start. looks like most of this impact is going to be north of Oakland. Hopefully we can use some of that to fill in the long time gaps in midday. For me, I'm a short hop user, and Capitol Corridor often comes along with me taking a San Francisco ferry ride, in which then, after getting off the ferry, Capitol Corridor offers me a direct one-seat, one-stop ride from Oakland Jack London to Emeryville. And sometimes I also go between Emeryville and Berkeley using this short hop. More trains will help. This is not new to me. It's a few years ago. I was at the Harlem 125th Street station. Instead of the subway, I decided to take a train southbound on Metro North from Harlem 125th Street, about 4 miles south, to that famous railroad station that is Grand Central Terminal. Very famous historic railroad station located in New York City. So too, Capitol Corridor offers me this same kind of service, and frequency definitely helps, especially in connection with the ferry. In reviewing our schedules, I would like to see us refine our time gaps between the ferry and the Capitol Corridor, Jack London, because it takes a fast walk to fill that gap. But overall, I'm looking forward to new trains, and I hope we can preview the schedule. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other online public comments? There are none. Any public comments in the room? Okay. I'll entertain any comments from board directors. Yes, Director Dickinson.
Trying out the new technology here. New to me anyway. I just had a couple, thank you, Chair. I have just had a couple questions. First, with respect to the wraps, I assume wraps can be lots of things. So I assume this is just putting insignia of Capitol Corridor on the trains and identifying paint schemes that people will say, aha, I know that's Capitol Corridor. Is that not ads or other things?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, thanks. And then second, with regard to the budget display, I always like to see actuals for the preceding fiscal years, and you made some reference to it in terms of what the allocation from the state has been so far for FY26 is based on actuals from 24. I'm assuming you do have actuals now for FY25.
Yes. So the Amtrak operating agreement and budget are actually on the the federal fiscal year, which begins on October 1. So we are currently in FY25.
Oh, you're still, okay.
Yes. We do have year-to-date data, which Rob is going to present in a future slide.
Today?
Yes.
Oh,
Director's report.
okay.
Certain questions that you have.
No, well, I mean, the question that came to mind based on what you said was, what is, if you projected the actual for the operating subsidy for FY25, recognizing it's being accounted for in a federal fiscal year, where would that be compared to the FY25 budget and the proposal you made for FY26? And just for in the future, at least for my purposes, it would really be helpful if you included that as a column, but
absolutely,
if you can respond to that through the chair.
We'll be happy to do that. Just add to Kat's comment, the non-Amtrak operating costs we get in real time. The Amtrak operating costs, is a complicated beast, I will say, because these are allocated costs across Amtrak's full service. So it is slower than what is typical for all the other line items. And so we actually, it sometimes takes a pretty extended period of time to get the actuals, but we hear you on showing the most recent reconciled data. We'll definitely keep doing that in the future.
So, but I'm assuming that your proposed FY26 operating subsidy number, that 172 for is based upon what you're projecting, at least in part, based on what you're projecting for the actual for FY25. Is that?
That is correct. And one of the challenges that we've had historically is that Amtrak's projections for what the cost will end up being have not always been as accurate as we'd like them to be. And so the state developed this model, as Kat referred to, which is a financial model that has actually been reasonably accurate in forecasting costs. The state, as Kat described, used an older version of the model when they approved our budget. We need to work through it a little bit. We actually are fairly confident that we can work within the 51.5 million and still be okay in terms of operating costs, but we are going to keep working with the state to see if there's a need for any additional funds for Amtrak operating. That's the only piece that where there's still a little bit of work to be done to nail down the financials.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions or comments in the room? Director Rayburn?
Thank you very much. I'm interested if you've identified how the bike storage on the new leased equipment will function.
Leo again, Deputy Managing Director. So we have been looking at all the different options that we have available. We don't have a fully finalized equipment set yet to really be able to tell you, but it's clear that we'll have some of the bike cars that Caltrain used previously. So that will actually really help with ample bike storage in the lower level.
Thank you very much for that. And have you identified where the new trains will be slotted in the morning and evening?
Leo again. I think right now we're working through that detail actively right now with our consultant Doshaban as we're figuring out how to optimize the use to really use it as a captive set and keep it preferably in a Oakland to Sacramento slot. So that's what we're working towards right now.
Thank you. That's all.
Director Jan?
Yeah, I want to follow up on what Director Rayburn said. On Caltrain, you don't lock your bikes, but on Capitol Corridor, you do. So perhaps you can come up with a solution to allow us to lock our bikes for a long trip. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Jim. We'll take your feedback and we'll see what we can do.
Director Sell, I see your hands up.
So my questions relate to slide 10. So for the Amtrak operations, fiscal year 2026, it's about 4 million less than what was requested. So if that 4 million is not reinstated, so that the total would be nearer to 27, is the Capitol Corridor, what would be the contingency plan? Is there need to be a contingency plan?
Patrick here. Thank you for the question. So we have been carefully looking at that since we set at the allocation, since that we received the letter from the state. Couple things here. One is that our expenses to date, because this is an approval of an existing fiscal year that we're in already, expenses to date are tracking lower than initially projected, and our revenue is tracking higher than projected. So we're pretty confident that we are headed towards that number. All that said, we do need to continue to work with the state. I think this is a little bit of an imperfection in their work that we're going to work through, and I'm confident that they will address any sort of issues with budget. And we'll come back to you and give you an update on that.
And then the direct operations increased between from 2025.8 to 2.8 million. Is the 2 million increase related to the extra? I mean, were trains coming up to the pre-COVID levels, or that was the operation increase is related to. Direct operation increase between 20.
This is Leo, Deputy Capital Quarter. So that is part of what we are including. Projected increases that there was a change in service, and we projected in the new fiscal year to go up to the maximum level of service of 30 weekday trains. So that was part of what's driving the increased cost.
Okay, and then my last question is for the CA intercity passenger rail supplement allocation. We have we requested 14 million, but we got 16.5 million. Is there a reason for that? And is that a good thing? Then we have more services that can be provided, or?
Thank you for the question. Catherine Alusi here, Manager of Budget and Administration. The main reason why there was an increase is subsequent to submitting the invoices, the additional equipment. And so the additional $2.4 million was due to additional funding received for the equipment readiness for the new equipment that we're working on.
Okay. Thank you for answering my questions.
I don't see any other directors' questions or comments. I need a ruling. Can we do this? Can we adopt both resolutions in one motion? I think that's a yes. I'm getting a nod, yes. So I will, all right, by Director
I'll second.
Dickinson, seconded by Director Rayburn to adopt resolution 2523 and 2524.
Director Broadway,
Yes.
Director Dickinson, Director Chapman, Director Foley,
Aye.
Director Frericks,
Aye.
Director Alba Hernandez,
Aye.
Director Jane, Director Lee,
Yes.
Director Ryd,
Aye.
Director Rayburn,
Yay.
Director Sell,
Yes.
Director Wright,
Aye.
Director Brewer, Director Boy, Chair Haldeshelt.
Aye.
Motion passes 15-0.
Thank you very much. Next, do we have a discussion or action item on the authorization of Caltrans District 3 YOLO 80 Managed Lane Project Funding Agreement to support Managing Director Pageant?
All right, so this is an exciting item, and we're coming back to you again to talk about it some more. This is an action related to the mitigation funds being provided as part of the I-80 Managed Lanes Program. This is a new approach in California and relates to the new requirement that any new capacity project provide mitigation to offset VMT growth. An interesting project, we're really excited about it. I think it sets a great precedent. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Soland on our team, who will provide us with a nice update here.
Thank you, Rob. Good morning to the board. Happy to be here. I'll be walking through this work to potentially receive funding from the YOLO 80 Bypass Project for the mitigation program. So Caltrans is moving forward with widening Interstate 80 across the YOLO bypass. And with that expansion, there are requirements that trigger environmental mitigations to address the added traffic, greenhouse gases, and impacts to vehicle miles traveled, what we commonly refer to as VMT. This has presented Capital Corridor with an opportunity. The state has identified $10 million in funding for Capital Corridor to pursue their mitigation strategies. And the specific goal of Caltrans is to reduce 12.6 million vehicle miles traveled across the YOLO bypass by shifting travelers from cars to rail. For Capital Corridor, this is an opportunity to use these funds to potentially gain ridership and make our services more affordable. Next slide. So Caltrans requires that a few considerations here for these funds. Caltrans requires that all the VMT reductions come from trips that cross the YOLO bypass. So the funds can only be applied to those trips. To reach the 12.6 million VMT reduction goal, we'll need to attract about 150,000 new riders passing through this segment. And when we consider what VMT reduction strategies to pursue, certainly as Capital Corridor, we have to account for the budget that we have and the staffing constraints. We can't pursue big capital projects or increasing service necessarily, or projects that require a lot more staffing. So we identified fare reduction as the most practical and effective strategy because fares are elastic, meaning lower prices mean more ridership, and more ridership means reductions to vehicle miles traveled. We're proposing to pursue a fare reduction strategy here. And our intent is to use the funds to subsidize fares for the 56 origins and destinations that pass through the YOLO bypass. And you'll see that on the next slide. This chart represents our fares between station pairs. So the yellow boxes are the fares where we can use the funds to entice ridership because those origins and destinations cross the YOLO bypass. One challenge with targeting only the YOLO bypass trips, however, is fare consistency. So discounts in just the yellow highlighted area could mean that some longer trips cost less than shorter trips elsewhere on the system. In this example, the highlighted red boxes, they're highlighted with the highlighted red boxes. And this would create a fairness or perception issue that we'll need to address in our program design. And we have some ideas on how to do that, and it would mean making modest adjustments so that the riders in those nearby areas don't experience any unfair pricing. Next slide. So we looked at a range of fare reduction options and identified our proposed approach here, which would be a 20 to 30% fare discount for riders traveling across the YOLO bypass. And the example on the table here shows a 25% discount. And we estimate that this would increase annual ridership by 10% and be able to reach the VMT reduction goal in about 2.5 years. And even with our conservative fare elasticity assumptions, these reductions would be on track to meet those targets that were set by Caltrans. So since the fares for travelers crossing the YOLO bypass will be subsidized, we can expect additional revenue to be generated because we're enticing more ridership. And this additional revenue could be used to offset the inconsistent fare issue that I mentioned in the last slide. Longer term, Capital Corridor should really consider advocating for a dedicated funding stream from the managed lanes that will be part of the YOLO 80 project to keep our fares at the same at a discount. Next slide. As a support strategy and to improve effectiveness of this program, the fare discounts are proposed to be paired with targeted marketing and discount campaigns. We're recommending allocating a percentage of the funds for campaigns and promotions, especially during the launch, to accelerate the ridership growth and ensure really good, well aware for our potential travelers. Next slide. So in terms of next steps, over the next few months, we'll refine our financial model and hone in on what specific subsidy level we're going to propose. In the next 3 to 6 months, we'll find agreement with Caltrans on the funding amount. And within a year, we expect to be able to finalize this program and actually implement the promotions and reduce fares. We also intend to have a consistent monitoring program to monitor program performance as part of this. This will be a good opportunity to advance some sort of academic study of our actual fare elasticity. So in conclusion here, our request for the board, we're asking you to give us the go-ahead in implementing this fare reduction program. This includes adjusting fares for bypass trips and pursuing a consistent fare structure across the other origin and destination pairs. Also, as I mentioned before, this is a good opportunity to work with our academic partners to study CCJPA's fare elasticity, and this will give us insights for more broad fare adjustments that can help us maximize our ridership and our revenue. Thank you to the board for your consideration.
Thank you, Brian. Do we have any public comment on this item?
We do have one online speaker, Alita Dupree. Please unmute yourself.
Thanks again, Chair Bruce Hotters, and members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her team holds. I'm interested in this template. The presentation makes it pretty clear. I don't have a lot of experience in Yolo County, though I did read about the zero emission battery powered bus that runs between Sacramento and Davis. I'm hoping that this type of program will bring new users to the system. This is about vehicle miles traveled. The reason why I speak of this template, even though I'm not expert on matters of Sacramento, is I consider that when I stay in Emeryville or West Oakland, that we have the 880 that runs to the south and connects with the beginning of really kind of the start of 880, where the Bay Bridge approach comes in, joins 880, and turns into 80 going north. It's a very, very crowded piece of highway that someday, hopefully, this template can be applied in other parts of our card. But how will this affect other public transportation? I want this to be complementary, not competitive. And yes, Capital Corridor does offer a very nice service, which is why I use it in lieu of some other systems where I'm at. And yes, sometimes using Capital Corridor does impact a reduction in my use of BART, which is the people system. And nobody should have to struggle with choosing public transportation. But we want to be able to encourage people to leave their cars behind and enjoy what Capital Corridor has to offer all through the network. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
There's an additional request with Linda Brock. Please go ahead.
Mary should hopefully be here soon, but I have not.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can if you speak up a little bit more.
Okay, I will try and speak up. Good morning. My name is Linda Brock, BRAAK. I am with the Transportation Services Department at the University of California at Davis. I oversee multiple groups here at Transportation Services, including our Transportation Demand Management Unit, whose sole focus is to get people to the university in ways other than the car. We put a good deal of effort in trying to get ridership on the Capital Corridor, both from both east and west. And we'd love to work with you in driving ridership in this way. We have, of course, staff and a large part of commuter students coming in, and would love to work with you guys on this if possible. Anybody that would like to reach out to me, that'd be great.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
There's no additional comments.
Director Chapman.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your presentation here. A couple of questions around this. When you were looking at possible ways to mitigate, what other options were you looking at besides the fare reduction strategy?
You want me to answer?
Okay. The two significant options we looked at, and actually some of the funds were given to other transit agencies as well. The real two options are to increase service or to change fares. Because we have only access to a certain number of trips on our on Union Pacific right of way, increasing service was not really an option. We do think, and we've come to the board a couple weeks ago to talk about the fare reduction strategy for short trips that we did, because we had, if you remember, those very expensive short trips. We made that change, and we have already seen an increase in ridership for some of the short trips. So we're pretty confident that this strategy will attract additional riders. So a lot of it is about making sure we can actually achieve the goals that are expected and do so within the constraints that we face.
Got it. Yeah. So then within the increase, aside from increase in service, is there a way, or was there a thought about adding an extra car to the existing service to get those numbers a little bit more robust, or did that pencil out?
Yeah, appreciate the question. So we are as you're aware, we're short on cars. Yeah. And so we have two challenges there. One is capacity. Right now we have capacity issues on just a handful of trains. This project, as you heard, will start probably closer to 12 months. And our expectation is by the time that this gets started, all the venture cars will be in service. A lot of the
Right.
cars will come our way. We'll have more capacity anyways. So that will be a part of this change, is to add some service, especially to the trains where we're having capacity issues.
Great. So that was kind of leads into my next question is the $10 million is a one-time, sounds like a one-time 3-year disbursement. But the project isn't slated to open, right, until 28. So what I'm hearing is that the mitigation efforts are going to happen prior to the lane being opened? Like we're mitigating for something that hasn't happened yet.
Well, my understanding of the requirement is that the project offset any VMT generated by the project. The exact timing of when that happens is we are permitted to start that in advance of the completion of the project, is our understanding. We are going to do a grant agreement where we get into those clear details, but that's our understanding. Now, is this a one-time thing for 3 years? That's what's in the EIR that was approved. But there are tolls that are collected on this new facility. So I think the question for the board is whether the board wants to advocate for this to be a longer-term project based on our results from this 3-year effort.
Got it. So then so after 3 years, there's not a commitment for another round of mitigation dollars.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. And then finally, I sit on the Capital Area Regional Tolling Authority Board, CARTA, which is the board that was created, which is kind of housed in SACOG now. It's a 5-member board of jurisdictions that are where this project impacts. So I would encourage our staff in terms of outreach, promotion, marketing, all that, to reach out to the CARTA board. We meet in Sacramento every month. We're in the process now of setting rates, setting discounts, all that work, and now diving into our executive director search specifically for this project. So would encourage that. And if you need information, I'm more than happy to share that along. So thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Director Chapman. I don't see anyone else in the room, so I'll go to
Yeah, Director or Chair Howdeshelt. This is Director Ferris. I would like to.
go.
I did it, but
Director,
didn't want to use the microphone. Okay. All right. Thanks, Chair. This is fascinating. I'm sorry that I'm coming to this somewhat late. I appreciate the work of the staff to come up with the fare reduction. I did have a question. Director Chapman answered a little bit of what I was interested in, but you said in your presentation 150,000 new riders. Do you just mean 150,000 more trips? I mean, you don't really mean new.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, I wanted to make sure we weren't going to try to track people who had never ridden before. If you go deep into the files and dust them off, you will find a feasibility assessment done in about 2008-9 of actually introducing additional what we called at the time more commuter rail service. This, if it can translate, and I understand the limit on slots, I understand the limit on equipment. Those are real obstacles, to be sure. But what would really make a difference here is service. If we're talking about VMT reduction through the YOLO bypass, what would really make a difference in my estimation is service that's targeted at those who travel in the corridor. So I wonder if thinking about the longer term, and I strongly support going after some of the revenue coming out of the tolls. Looking at once again whether we could manage to introduce some form of what I will continue to call commuter rail in this corridor, that would make a huge difference. I think. It would speak to what the representative UC Davis was talking about. It would speak to what we need to do in terms of travel in and out of Sacramento itself. And while the EIR has identified apparently reaching 12.6 million miles in VMT reduction for a slice of 10 million. The VMT reduction necessity goes on forever. I mean, it's not like you get there and boy, there's no more need for it. And that will be both an environmental and a congestion consideration, I suspect, as time goes on. But I hope we will explore that opportunity to increase service so that we have a lasting impact on reducing VMT in the corridor. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Dickinson. I'd invite you to come to edge cities like Folsom and Placer County. We'll put 150,000 on that roadway of new trips.
You know, when you dust off the study, you find Placer County, it was from Auburn. I think we ended up looking, had to go as far as Richmond, okay. but we definitely, that whole corridor, absolutely.
Good. Director Frieks.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Really appreciate it. So a couple quick things. First of all, really grateful to have Director Dickinson back on this board after many years of him not being on this board. So looking forward to serving with him and appreciate his raising of the feasibility study from years ago. But totally associate my comments with his and also Director Chapman. A couple quick points. One, I mean, this is, there was a lot of opposition to this actual project, specifically, concerns around induced demand. But also, I think one of the reasons what sets this project apart from many others is this is actually one of the first, if not the first, proposed project to do this type of work, which is take those toll revenues and put them not only back into operations and maintenance of the corridor, but specifically try to reduce VMT through the usage of transit, increased transit. And so, yes, it's a pilot program of only 3 years at the moment. As Director Chapman said, the facility is not even constructed yet, but I think it's going to serve as a model in other corridors around California and around the country. And pretty excited about, of course, seeing potential increased ridership. Again, as Rob said, the changes already in the short trips fares have already seen increases in ridership. And I think we're going to see that with this proposal. I have been previously and will continue to advocate for more service on this corridor and permanent funding from this project and hopefully others. And then just lastly, really appreciate the potential of working with UC Davis. This is a perfect example where on a study with the Institute for Transportation Studies to actually study this project and particularly this component of the project when it's sort of underway. So really appreciate sort of that full circle nature of this. And when appropriate, happy to make a motion or certainly a second and appreciate your consideration of my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Frieks. Director Sell, and I have old ears, so could you speak up? Because I was having a hard time hearing your questions previously.
Sure. So it's great that this work is being done to increase the positive effects of increasing vehicle miles traveled. So it's only a short-term time that seems like this cost reduction would occur. Do we foresee that if you have strategic marketing that would get more riders onto the system, that even without the cost reduction, do you ever foresee that VMT and the ridership would stay high without the cost reduction, if the cost reduction goes away in the future?
This is Rob Paget, Managing Director, responding. Great question, and I'm going to merge the answer on this one to the previous comment, which is this is a very unique project, and it is such a great opportunity to really test and study the impacts of fare changes. There's a lot of speculation and a lot of research out there that does its best to try to understand it. I think this is going to offer a real opportunity to see how sensitive people are to fares, and I think it will also perhaps reinforce arguments that subsidies like this one would offset VMT. So I would say stay tuned on that. That's an open question, and we look forward to partnering with researchers to help us answer it.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. I don't see any other comment, but I did hear a motion from Director Frericks. Do I have a second?
Second.
Director Dickinson seconds.
Director Broadway,
Yes.
Director Dickinson, Director Chapman, Director Foley,
Aye.
Director Frericks,
Aye.
Director Alba Hernandez,
Aye.
Director Jane, Director Lee,
Yes.
Director Reed,
Aye.
Director Rayburn,
Yay.
Director Seven,
Yes.
Director Wright,
Aye.
Director Brewer, Director Moy, Chair Haldeshelt.
Aye.
Motion passes 15-0.
Oops, our next item is item 7.3, Managing Director Paget authorizing funding and plans and construction agreements for Agnew Siding.
All right. So thank you very much. The next item is to approve the funding plan for the Agnew Siding project. This is a great opportunity to improve the reliability of service, flexibility of scheduling, and to allow for better service of special events between Oakland and San Jose. We'll have Leo Sanchez on my team present this item. I would like to respectfully request that we only vote on the first of the two resolutions and that we pull the second resolution. Upon review of the packet with legal, we need to come back to you for some actions on that. So today, the action we're going to take is related specifically to the funding plan. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Leo Sanchez, who will present this item.
Hello again, Leo Sanchez, Deputy Director. I'll begin by providing an update on Agnew Siding and the Santa Clara utility relocation projects. This project includes the construction of approximately 2,900 feet of new siding track, which will significantly enhance capacity. By adding the siding, we will reduce conflicts and delays in what is currently a congested single-track segment, improving reliability for all train operators in the area. As part of this project, several utilities will need to be relocated. The city of Santa Clara has asked CCJPA to take the lead in managing the design and construction for relocating 7 utility crossings that are directly affected by the new siding to help keep the project on schedule. The city of Santa Clara will reimburse CCJPA for this work. Next slide. The Agnew Siding project is entering the construction phase, necessitating the execution of various agreements. Union Pacific will perform the construction activities related to the tracks and signals. The contract is estimated to be in the amount of up to $4.4 million, and this includes a 20% contingency. CCJPA will also need to competitively procure a construction contractor to complete the other construction activities such as earthwork and construction of a retaining wall. This contract is estimated to be in the amount of up to $6.6 million, which includes a 20% contingency. The total agreements executed for the Agnew Siding construction will not exceed the total amount of funding secured, which is $11.1 million. To complete the work to relocate the utilities, which will be reimbursed by the city of Santa Clara, the CCJPA will enter into agreements with the construction contractor and the Union Pacific. The agreement with the construction contractor is estimated to cost up to $3.2 million, which includes a 25% contingency. The contract with Union Pacific for utility fees is estimated to cost up to $300,000, and it also includes a 20% contingency. The total amount of these contracts will not exceed the $3.5 million budget authorized by the city of Santa Clara reimbursement agreement. Next slide. Next, I'll provide an overview of the funding plans for Agnew Siding construction and the Santa Clara utility relocation. So for Agnew Siding project, the total construction cost is estimated at $11.5 million. The funding package includes $5 million from TIRCIP Cycle 7, $1.9 million from Proposition 3, and $2.5 million from the State Rail Assistance Cycle 2 program. To complete the package, staff is requesting the board authorization to temporarily obligate $1.6 billion from the CCJPA operating reserves, which will later be replaced with the State Rail Assistance Cycle 3 funds once they are released. For the Santa Clara utility relocation, the board authorized reimbursement agreement with the city for $3.3 million. Updated cost estimates now place the total at $3.5 million. We are requesting an increase to fully cover the construction costs. The city of Santa Clara will reimburse the CCJPA for 100% of these expenses, excluding capital corridor labor. Today, we're requesting the board approval for the funding plan for Agnew Siding, including the temporary use of operating reserves and authorization to increase the reimbursement agreement with the city of Santa Clara to $3.5 million. Next slide. All right, so in conclusion, the item requests the board approval for two actions. Not the third shown on the very bottom. So the first two being the use of $1.6 million in CCJPA operating reserves to be replaced by State Rail Assistance Program Cycle 3 funding once available, and an increase in the city of Santa Clara utility relocation reimbursement agreement to $3.5 million. As Rob mentioned, we will return to the board with a resolution to approve the Public Works contracting and Union Pacific agreements. Thank you.
And I just want to add, if I could, one quick note here. I'm sure the question is going to come up about the temporary operating funding reserves. That allows us to go to CTC while we're waiting for the Cycle 3 SRA funds. The Cycle 3 SRA funds actually started as of July 1st this year, accumulating, but CalSTA has not finished the administrative actions that are required to do that. So Capital Corridor, as one of the three JPAs, is authorized to have a share of those SRA dollars. We know what those are, so it's more of a timing to make sure that we stay on top of this and keep the project moving.
Thank you. Public comment?
There are no public requests.
No public comment. Director Jane, right? Jane, not Jan. Jane.
Actually, it's both, depending on what part of India. But anyway,
Good to know.
okay. As a Santa Clara council member, and we own and operate Silicon Valley Power, these relocations, utility relocations, are being caused by the siding. So why is the city of Santa Clara paying for this?
Yeah, good question. So my understanding of how utility easements work is that in the Union Pacific right-of-way is that any utility easement that is in the right-of-way, part of the agreement with Union Pacific is that if any sort of change to the infrastructure requires relocation of those utilities, that's the responsibility of the utility owner that has that in the right-of-way.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Director Rayburn.
Thank you very much. I think that one thing that I want to clarify is that this is an $11.1 million not to exceed contract. And yet, when I look at the capital project portfolio at the back of the package, it shows a $12.5 million total cost for the Agnew siding. Can you explain that discrepancy?
So appreciate the question. I'll have to look into the discrepancy between the capital table in the back and this particular item. On the spot, my expectation is that when we look at the details, that the $12.5 million includes costs that we've spent to date on design of the project, but we'll have to get back to you on the specifics on that.
And that's all. Thank you.
Seeing no other comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion on resolution 2526.
Second.
Wow, everybody. I don't know. Who got the second in first? Okay, we'll give it to Director Wren gets a second. Director Chapman is the maker of the motion.
Director Broadway,
Yes.
Director Dickinson, Director Chapman, Director Foley,
Aye.
Director Frericks, Director Alder Hernandez,
Aye.
Director Jade,
Yes.
Director Lee, Director Reed,
On board,
Director Rayburn,
Yay.
Director Sell,
Yes.
Director Wright,
Aye.
Director Brewer, Director Boyd, Chair Dick Aldershelt.
Aye.
Motion passes 13-0.
Thanks. Let the minutes reflect that Director Ren's on the board.
He's on board.
All right, Director Paget, let's get you get your capital project update and get you on the road.
All right, and my staff whispering in my ear has confirmed my comment earlier, which is that 12.5 million includes design. So the 11.1 is construction. Yep. Correct. All right. So on to capital projects. So as a reminder, during capital projects, we take questions on anything that's in your packet. So there's a lot of detail in your packet about specific projects. And then we highlight one project. So we're going to highlight Davis Station project. So if you can get the next slide, please. This is not, this is a little bit of our project, it's a little bit of an Amtrak project, and we do want to give the board a heads up on something that is going on with this particular project. So as we've been here before, we've talked about this before, long-term, the plan that Amtrak has presented at the Davis City Council has presented as part of its ADA Station Improvement Program of projects is to reconstruct the Davis Station to be fully accessible. And Amtrak determined that the station could not be fully accessible with the current setup. I think a lot of you are aware of the narrow platform. It makes it really difficult to make that accessible. So the plan was to reconstruct this as a center island platform. Excuse me. And also with benefits of allowing community access. There's going to be a connection underneath to the neighborhood that's currently isolated by the railroad track. So really a great project. City of Davis has funds to provide that other connection. As a precursor to that, there's a $16 million project which involves the replacement of the signals adjacent to the Davis Station, but also the relocation of those signals and the replacement of interlocking. And what that first project allows is for the full reconstruction of the Davis Station. So this has been our plan. It has been presented. However, we were informed by Amtrak about a couple months ago, month and a half ago, that they have revised many of their ADA projects, including the one at Davis, and do not intend to move forward with this project as they have presented previously. They also, as we were just ready to go with this $16 million initial project, are no longer willing to contribute $5 million to the project. So staff level, we are going to continue to work with Amtrak. Appreciate your support to try to change minds and get this back to a good place. But I wanted to make sure the board was aware of this recent development on the project. And with that, I'll pause. I'll take questions on any of the capital projects.
Great. I just wanted to add that we did have a meeting with some congressional staff from congressional representatives to brief them on this and try to advance a solution. So thanks. Any other, let me open for public comment. Thank you.
There are two requests to speak. The first is with Roland. Please go ahead, Roland.
Thank you. This is Roland Brand San Jose. I have a quick question through the chair. Is how you could possibly have an ADA compliant gap on a curved platform. Thank you.
And let's take the second comment.
The second comment is Alita Dupree. Alita, please go ahead.
Thanks again, Chair Bruce, Out of Salton members. Alita Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds. I feel the need to speak on this, given the mention of the Davis Station and the proposed ADA work. This has to happen. And we have an imperative to do so, and it is the right thing. and I'm seeing precedent of this in other cities. And BART, which manages administratively your system, is a national leader in accessibility and has been so since its inception. And I do believe there is a path forward with building this station to be ADA compliant. And there are experts in this type of work who know how to design all different kinds of facilities to be ADA compliant. And I'm looking forward to see what those plans look like. Certainly there are other stations to work on. Berkeley is not ADA compliant. It's a long way down when you step off the train to get onto that platform. I have to turn and face the train and lower myself down. But certainly in New York City, 300 new accessibility ADA stations in the subway are planned. And I think about 60 are in construction. We have an imperative for the people of Davis and those who visit Davis to be able to enjoy the fully inclusive benefits of an ADA station, which not just is the right thing to do, but also reflects the idea that your administrative agency, BART, is the people's system. Thank you.
Managing Director Patrick, do you have any comment on the first comment?
Yeah, I'll add to that comment. So this station is on a curve, and stations are no longer built on curves. This station has been here for a long time. So I will say that it is very challenging to provide accessibility in the current setup on a curve, and it creates safety issues as well. So while this project was planned as an ADA project, there are many, many, many benefits to the solution that has been put on the table.
Thank you. Any other questions or Director Chapman?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And I want to just take a moment and thank Rob and his team as a representative for the city of Davis, and this train station is in my district in which I represent. Thank you for the work that you've done in trying to get us to this point. It's extremely disappointing that this is now being pulled. It was something that we had feared coming into it, and we knew that what the effect would be if something like this happened. But I just want to make sure that we continue, and I appreciate the efforts of meeting with our legislative leaders to continue to work on this and try and get some of those dollars back. It's extremely important. The undercrossing that they're describing is in the lowest socioeconomic area in the city of Davis. It's isolated, and lots of people are running over the train tracks to get into downtown to catch the train or to catch buses, because Olive Drive doesn't have any of those services on it. So it's multiple fold in terms of what the benefits are for this project from an ADA standpoint, absolutely, and also from an access and equity standpoint for the residents in our community who are isolated by the train. So our commitment from the city is to continue working with you and continue to push our leaders to try and get these dollars back and continue to move the project forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on Managing Director Paget's capital project
Yes.
update? Yes, Director Rayburn.
And for my colleagues in Yolo County, and everyone, I want to remind you that we heard from the family of a woman who lost her life on this platform. And this project reflects the board's interest in seeing that that never happened again.
Thank you. All right, with that, we'll move to the legislative and funding update. Director Paget. Managing Director Paget.
All right, thank you, Managing Director Paget. So we have a full update of state and federal legislative activities in your packet. I'll just highlight a couple of things. I think we're all excited to hear that the cap and trade is moving forward with continued funding for SRA and TIRSIP. Those have been really essential for us, and we obviously believe that this is an important part of climate strategy in California. So we're happy to see that. At the federal level, we're still watching the budgets. I think we're all interested to see how that plays out. Whether there's a continuing resolution or not, that affects the stability of FRA, which is an important partner. We do not have a confirmed FRA administrator, at least the last I checked on that, and we'll keep an eye on that. I do want to mention STB. So there is a big action that you probably have heard about, which is Union Pacific Railroad and Norfolk Southern. There's a proposed merger that has to be approved by STB, and there are steps involved in that process, and we do need to watch that. So that, the big thing is, does that have an impact on service? Is there any sort of action that we want to take related to that? There'll probably be a submission in December, January timeframe. Unrelated to that, as you're aware, I'm on the STB Passenger Rail Advisory Committee. There's a meeting of that committee tomorrow in DC. So we might have the deputy managing director's report, so I can go grab a flight here in Sacramento. But that committee is charged with making recommendations to the Surface Transportation Board on its fulfillment of its responsibilities related to passenger rail. So some really interesting stuff coming out of that committee. I think we're likely to see some things that are recommended for STB, but also some things that perhaps get pulled into reauthorization. The group is made up very good appointments, state passenger rail services, commuter rail services, freight, labor, Amtrak, really a broad spectrum of individuals who've been involved in passenger rail for a long time. So with that, I will pause, and I'll be happy to take any questions on the legislative item.
Any public comment? No, there's no public comment. Any Director Dickinson? The light is on.
I guess I'm learning, slow learner working to capacity. Just a couple quick comments, Rob. First of all, on the cap and trade side, I know your written report refers to the auctions not bringing in the kind of money that had previously been the case. I think there's the conventional wisdom is, because there wasn't certainty cap and trade was going to be extended, that the auction proceeds had fallen off. So hopefully that is a blip on the screen. And in more recent years, actually there'd been more cap and trade revenue than had been allocated through the formula that applied. So there was additional cap and trade money to hand out. So let's hope it goes that way, not the other way. The second is on the UP Norfolk Southern merger. I really think that's something to stay involved in, because I think we all recognize how tough it is to try to say this diplomatically, but tough it is to get UP to prioritize or recognize passenger rail issues. I think if it grows to be an even larger entity with a merger, that's going to become not just additionally difficult, but potentially exponentially difficult. So I think those are issues that need to be raised with STB. And hopefully the Amtrak will be involved in this, and the other that applies state level operations will also weigh in, and maybe that's something we should be working to encourage as well. So just a thought in that regard. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
I appreciate the comment. And we just in terms of process of note is we do have the option of participating in the hearings and submitting information and testimony on the merger. So it's something we can look at. They will have to submit an operating plan, a staffing plan as a part of that, and we do need to look at the details of that. It is a very important thing for the future of our service.
I mean, if I may just, the other thing that occurs to me, maybe it presents an opportunity for also raising issues like increasing slots for service, for example, as it's something, there'll be some, let's just say, give and take in the discussions about the merger. I suspect if history is a guide, maybe it's an opportunity.
Director Brewer.
Thank you, Chair. No, I want to thank you for presenting this overview, Rob, especially, and I agree with Director Dickinson when it comes to the merger of Norfolk Southern and UP. That's going to be very important and will provide some unforeseen benefits down the road that can help us at Capitol Corridor. But I also want to just pick your brain a little bit as we look at the extension of the cap and trade, now called cap and invest. I know there's going to be some designated funds allocated for transit that will be earmarked in the new policy. How will that help translate for transit service for Capitol Corridor, especially in the out years? Is because you're looking at $1 billion that could potentially go, and that's, I believe that's seen as the floor, not the ceiling. But what is your perspective on that? Can you share with how that transit aspect can work under the new program?
Thanks for the question. Appreciate it. And I think history is somewhat of our guide. So there's $1 billion allocated specifically to California High-Speed Rail, which we are not eligible for those dollars. But historically, many of our projects that are being developed currently are projects that were funded through the TIRSA program, which requires that you show a reduction in greenhouse gases. So continuing to fund that program is going to allow us to seek other opportunities under that program.
Great. Seeing no other questions or comments, we'll move to the managing or the deputy managing director's report, which.
Yeah, I'm handing over to Lisa Sanchez, and sorry I have to cut out a little bit early today.
Yeah, traffic's terrible.
Yep.
Take the train.
Thanks, Rob. And thanks, members of the board. Sorry you had to take a downgrade to the deputy managing director's report, but I'm happy to step in and help Rob get to his next place. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first item that we're going to talk about is the federal fiscal year 25 service performance. So if we can go to the next slide. So I think this was a topic that came up earlier when we were talking about revenue numbers and what that looks like. So good news story here, both ridership and revenue tracking upwards. And just a quick update is that this is from October 2024 through July of 2025. Those are the most current figures that we have that we're working with here. So 24.4 million, which is an increase of 8% compared to the prior year, and 9% for ridership. Really solid numbers. And as I mentioned during my report earlier, December we even had bigger gains. So I think once we have the numbers for August and then September, I think that will continue in that same trajectory. Next slide. So one of the things that we've done over the last few years is talk about some of the serious incidents that occur on our corridor relating to both trespasser and vehicle fatalities. So going back the last 4 federal fiscal years, we've done a lot of work, a lot of which has come to this board and we've taken action on making improvements on the corridor. And I think what we're seeing here, we have a couple of weeks left in the federal fiscal year, is that that's starting to pay dividends. We had a really, this federal fiscal year 23 with 21 fatal incidents, and it's been progressively getting better. So we have more work to do in this effort, including obligating one of the CRISI grants that we obtained, and we're looking forward to obligating those funds later this year and continuing to make improvements in this area. Next slide. All right, so we have 2 different surveys that took place over the summer. One of them is a traditional onboard survey that we do every year that takes place during the summer, and then the other one was actually relating to our schedule that's upcoming and to inform our schedule as we were working through that. So first we're going to talk about this one and just share some exciting things that we continue to see out there. So overall, when you look at performance, you can see that our customer satisfaction remains very high, and this is really consistent with what Amtrak also does. They also do a customer satisfaction index report, and it's almost always right around 90%, and our net promoter score, you can see it there on the screen, 93%, very solid numbers. Next slide. In terms of trip purpose and why people are using Capitol Corridor, that we still see that is coming up is the commute to and from work. So 38% is what we're hearing is about that number, and that really does tie in closely with what we see in our overall makeup of the ticket types that we sell, both when you compare the single ticket types and the multi-ticket types. Next followed up by visiting family or friends. So leisure market is still pretty solid and pretty strong. Next slide. Alternatives to Capital Corridor, the biggest one is, we talked about VMT earlier, and the biggest one is autos or driving alone. 59% overwhelmingly indicate that. Next slide. In terms of how often folks are using Capital Corridor, the most common answer that's given is 1 day per week or less. So you can see that, there's a lot of leisure activity, and even when you're looking at commute and work activities, it's a lot less frequent than what we used to see in previous years. Next slide. In terms of usage and demographics, a lot of interesting data here, both including the average age of about 41 years old. You can see what are the top stations that folks are utilizing, top lighting and home locations. So Sacramento is really one of the top ones that stands out, so that's no surprise. Next slide. All right, and now we're going to transition over to the Capital Corridor schedule feedback survey results. Next slide. All right, so in terms of the schedule, the schedule really was composed of feedback from current, past, and riders to really get a good feel of who all is the potential base that's utilizing Capital Corridor. So 79% rode in the last 12 months, 11% used it previously but not recently, and then about 9% have never utilized it. Next slide. So in terms of desired schedule improvements, what do folks want? And you can see it here. It's pretty spread out. The answer is people want everything. They want more service. They want later trains. They want evening trains. They want, so it's a good news that, obviously the public really relies and leans on public transit and services like Capital Corridor. It makes it very challenging when we're thinking about, okay, how do we use that to inform the schedule and how do we make decisions, right? Because we often will hear of things like, just to pick one, we want later service, but then when we actually implement it, it's very underutilized. So that's one of the challenges that we have to deal with limited train slots that we have. Next slide. In terms of expected changes in the next 6 months, from our folks, 31% expect to commute more, 5% less, and then 48% expect no change. So what does this mean? I think what this means is that we're still continuing to see a lot more people return to in-person work, to in-person travel even. I think that some of our regions were some of the most drastically affected during COVID, and what we're seeing now are very positive trends that are really going to impact all of our transit partners, not just Capital Corridor, but in the mega region will be beneficiaries from what we see in the patterns. Next slide. In terms of the top choice, and I picked on this one earlier because this was one of the things that came up the most. There's a lot of interest for having late night service, and we're going to look to see what we're able to provide. We do on occasion run some special event service, which some of that includes running some late trains, like 49ers, for example, and we'll continue to do things like that. Next slide. All right. So in terms of highlight topic that we wanted to really share, and we were excited to have a lot of participation from folks in this room and some that are not present, but we had a really good showing from California Operation Lifesaver, from Amtrak, from Union Pacific, from the city of Davis, from our staff. I mean, it was a really well put show, and it was really appreciated just how successful that was. So we have some key photos just highlighting some moments that happened during the California Safety Month kickoff that took place on September 3rd at Davis, and we actually took a train down all the way to Martinez. We had a simulator that Amtrak uses to train their staff that people were able to use. We live streamed some of the a crossing feed that showed as we're coming and approaching the crossing what that looked like. So a lot of really cool things to be able to show both our riders, and some of it is our constituents, and some of it is our local officials and elected officials, really how safety and our train service interact together. So let's take a look at some of the photos. So here's one, just a show of highlighting really the three E's of rail safety: education, engineering, and enforcement. We had everybody well represented. You can see here some of the police officers that helped with some of the enforcement. Next slide. And at the press conference, it was well attended and well represented, really from all partners. Next slide. Here's some snapshots from on board. We also played some train bingo that really was a lot of fun. Looking out for different train components, looking at signals, we were on the hunt for various things, and it was a good way to keep everybody engaged and really focused on the main topic, which was train safety. Next slide. And this was at just some snapshots from the Martinez station, and that's Peggy Igbrahim from Union Pacific talking to our first responders and just really highlighting some of the key importances of rail safety. Next slide. All right. And this takes us to our last slide, and I just wanted to take a moment to introduce our newest team members. One of them is our Climate Corps fellow, Emily Denayo. She's not here at the moment, but we also have Stuart Bishop, if he can wave his hand. He's our principal business data analyst. And then lastly, also not present, but she was here previously as a Climate Corps fellow, Anne-Marie Wong. We're excited to have her as our marketing rep too. Please welcome our team, and looking forward to having them come around and continue to contribute to Capital Quarter. That is all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. Any public comment on managing director's report?
There's no public comments.
Okay. Any directors have any? Director Dickinson?
Thank you. I just wanted to make a quick comment about the late night service. And in doing so, I wanted to say I'm delighted to have the mid-morning service restored from Sacramento. But I observed long ago, it has to do with buses, but I think it's transferable, what I call the last bus theory. And that is that people will not take the last bus if there's not the next bus. They won't take the last train if there's not a next train. And the last bus or the last train may be underutilized, but people will take that next to last service because they know if they happen to miss it, there's another one they can get. But they won't take what is the last one if there's not another one, because if they miss it, they're stuck. And so I offer that as a thought to keep in mind when you're thinking about the underutilization of the last service, but it may be because of that phenomena.
Thanks, Director Dickinson.
Director Rayburn.
I want to applaud the efforts for the Rail Safety Month event I attended, and in particular, it was an opportunity to have serious discussions with aides to several congressional representatives and talk about issues here that we have. I wrote everybody that was on the train with me coming out that morning, we were delayed at the bridge. And that made a big impact on, I think, Representative Garamendi's 3 staff members who saw that firsthand. It does not work. And so I said, well, the surface transportation reauthorization is just around the corner, and we should be looking at bridge infrastructure across the country. I think that's something that will resonate. So it was an incredible event, and I really think that you did a great job in putting it together and making sure that all the right people were in attendance and in the heat out in Davis that day. So thanks again.
All right, thanks very much. I don't have anything to add. We'll next go to director's reports. All right, we'll go.
Okay. Again, I guess it's good morning still, Chair and members of the board. Jonathan Esposito, Safety Legislative Representative 1732. Two comments, one question. First comment, for those of you who rode the train that day, I was your conductor. So I do apologize for that delay at the bridge. And other than that, I hope you had a wonderful trip. We do try to provide an excellent trip and comfortable trip for our passengers. Second comment, especially learning about the new or the leased equipment we may be getting on Capitol Corridor service. Both these comments are for safety, or comment and question. The first comment on safety is if we can get more messaging or better messaging out about the one ticket, one seat / no luggage on seats. I've noticed that we are getting, as more people return back to work, they are getting carrying larger bags that they consider a personal bag, but that bag is taking up more room. And when we are asking these passengers to, hey, for safety, for seating ability, we're kind of getting the brush off like, I've been doing this for a long time. So if we can maybe get that messaging back out there for that, that would be great. The last question would be, it has to do with fare evasion, and we are told not to delay trains unnecessarily. But for myself, who has to deal with the passenger who does this, the increase from fare evasion to trespassing to a possible conflict, that's getting harder to kind of contain. And the question that I get, or from my members, is why does it seem that the board, the JPA, doesn't care about fare evaders? Like the attitude has been let them ride, and that is what Amtrak is telling us. So I don't know if there's a way to answer that.
I think we'll get you an answer for sure. Okay, and I appreciate you bringing that as a representative to our attention. With we have two additional public comments. Okay.
The first is Roland. Please go ahead, Roland.
Thank you again, Chair. Roland from San Jose. So very briefly, what I'd like to do is to attract your attention to a webinar that starts in 13 minutes, known as the FTA Rail Grade Crossing Safety Webinar. There will be two important presentations, one from LA Metro on the use of photo enforcement technology, and from the Rock Region Metro on the integration of positive train control to reduce incidents at intersections and to improve operational safety and operations. What that means is trains getting stopped automatically, which is something that I've been advocating for over 10 years. It's been around for 20 years in Europe. The one thing I think that's going to be missing from this presentation, and I appreciate your support on what I'm about to say, the root cause of all these accidents, incidents, delayed trains, and fatalities in the United States is that you do not have any road markings between the gates. The two most essential road markings are, first of all, either double or quad yellow lines on either side of the crossing to stop cars from turning onto the tracks. The other most important sign is known as a yellow box, which is an area between the gates delineating that cars are not supposed to enter that area until the exit is clear. And in closing, all these road markings have to be made in thermoplastic paint with embedded reflective beads so that they pop like a Christmas tree at night and in inclement weather. I will be speaking to this later on, and I really hope that I can have your support on these issues. Thank you very much.
Our last public speaker is Alida Dupree. Alida, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Bruce Haddis, Health and members. Alida Dupree, for the record, she and her with Team Folds. For some reason, the microphones got muted in the call for public comment. So we want to make sure that we don't lose the connections when we make these very important announcements, because it could cause somebody to miss their chance to speak. I continue to speak about the Tap to Ride. I did use Capitol Corridor a few times over the summer. and it works. Still, conductors are not keeping their tap to ride devices with them. So we have to find out why. Do they have to be charged often? Is there no room on their work belt or on their lanyard to hold that? Because when I ride Berkeley to Emeryville, you're welcome to check my fare, but I'm getting off the train whether you come back or not. But they always do. And I really feel the importance of working toward being able to use our phones and other mobile devices to pay. Not only because it's an easier device to handle rather than digging into a wallet to get our plastic cards out, but also, certainly with my phone, it would give the conductor a visual verification that I tapped, or it should, I hope. And we want to make sure that we have timely processing of these charges. I have been charged accurately, but there was at one time a delay in which I did not receive those authorizations. I have enough on my credit line to cover those, but for some who are skating, that could be problematic. So I think we have to really refine and improve our tap to ride to bring us to the level of other systems. And yes, BART just initiated a tap to ride, and I've used it, and it works, and it reflects the idea that BART is the people's system. So too, I ask you to go forth and make improvements as we go along in Capital Corridor. Thank you.
Is that any other public comment?
There's no additional requests.
Well, I want to thank my fellow directors for their excellent input and commitment to the mission of the Capital Corridor Joint Powers Authority. We will meet again on November 19th at the BART headquarters in Oakland at 10 a.m. We are adjourned.